What's going on, YouTube? I am back once again, and today we're going to be going over an Odion deck that I have built. It's the same one from one other episode. However, I just had too much fun with it, and I couldn't stop playing it. So, I'm bringing it back to the channel again because I love this deck so much. It has worked really well for me. I've only lost 2 games out of about 8 or 10, and the only reason for that was I opened up with 3 of these guys. Yeah. And 1 attack and receive, so you know I was pretty hosed. And then the other game I lost, I opened up with 3 of these guys. And then 1 of these guys. So, definitely not how you want to open. But, I will explain this deck again. And the Lava Golem, you contribute 2 of your opponent's monsters and summon this guy to their side of the field. It does 1,000 damage every time. Every standby phase of theirs. And that is really good for the burn aspect of this Odion deck. 2 Doom Dogs to search out that Lava Golem. 3 Nimble Musabis, so you can either do 500 life points of damage to them, which happens every time. And when 1 is destroyed, you can choose to summon 2 to your opponent's side of the field, or maximum of 2, depending on how many open spaces they have. And then you can use them, and you can actually get Lava Golem on their side of the field. By using these guys, so that's really helpful. I run 1 Lady Assailant of the Flames. The reason I only want to run 1 is because I feel like this deck does really well without milling out your own cards. 800 life points of damage is not that important to me. It will help in those key situations, like if you top deck this card and they're at 600, it will help. However, you don't want to mill too many of these cards that you have in this deck, because then it's just going to be a bad time for you, because much of this deck is based off of a few cards, and if you mill a few of those cards, it's not going to work too well. Like if you mill 2 Bubonic Vermins, it's going to be bad. So I run 3 Bubonic Vermin, obviously, because every time they are flipped, they can summon another Vermin from your deck to this side of the field, to your side of the field. And that's good for stalling. Needle Ball, you can pay 2,000 of your life points to inflict 1,000 to your opponent. And that pairs really well with this Draining Shield. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, negate that attack, and if you do, you can gain life points equal to the target's attack. So, you set the Needle Ball, you set the Draining Shield, you Draining Shield their attack, and then the next turn, you essentially activate the Needle Ball. You use 1 Burning Lands, Mask of the Accursed for those large monsters that are giving you a real hard time. And 3 attack and receives, so when they attack you directly, you can just say, I don't think so, sir, and just do some chip damage on them, you know. So then you run Windstorm for the stall as well, and then Odion skill Chain Reaction is great for this deck because it runs a lot of traps. His skill Chain Reaction does 200 attack damage, or not attack damage, 200 damage to your opponent's life points every time a trap is activated, so that is really good. So I have 3 replays to show you guys. First one is Odion versus a Jaden Yugioh, and this guy, he was running a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Yu-Gi-Oh. Get it? Because we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, so obviously he's running a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Alright, no, but for real now, he was running, I don't remember, so we're just going to have to wait and see, and it will probably jog my memory when I see his first card. We opened up kind of okay in this duel. It wasn't the best opening, but, you know, like, Draining Shield and Needle Ball, every time that happens, that's just a pretty good opening. Plus, we have Vermin and a Windstorm to stall. Oh, I remember this now. This guy stalled almost as long as I did, and then I finally got tired of it and went in on him with my monsters. So, this is a good representation of what happens when this deck has to go aggressive on your opponent. If your opponent's doing a lot of sets like this deck does, you will have to go aggressive. But luckily, I drew into a Lady Assailant of the Flames, and I was able to use her to be able to go aggressive. She's really the only card that you'll be able to use because she's 1,500 attack, and I know that's kind of annoying, but 9 times out of 10 you won't run up against someone playing this passive. because I don't even think he was really running a passive deck. I think he was waiting for me to tribute summon or do something crazy or something like that, because this was a Hane, and I think he just really wanted me to attack into the Hane. So he ends up sending my Doomdog back, which is actually really good because Lava Golem got milled. So Doomdog is basically useless other than some protection. So I end up setting Nimble Musabi as I draw him, and I go in for 1500 on his life points. So at this point, I have an attack and receive down and a draining shield, so that's 1100 damage right there. And then the Needle Ball, when I flip it, that's 1000. So he's basically lost already, unless he has something to counter any of this. I end up letting that go through so I can trigger the attack and receive, because that will actually take him down to under 1000 life points. And then this turn, I can just flip my old Needle Ball, and my Needle Ball does 1000 to him as long as I pay 2000, which of course I did. He ends up raging pretty hard here. He econs me, then he windstorms me, then he super rushes me, and I'm like, dude, you lost, give it up. Honestly, what the heck? So that was really annoying to sit through that chain, but you know, I'm not gonna let him get the best of me, because I do 1000 damage. Get on my level. So that's the first win with this deck. I'm still a strong believer that this deck can go plat, maybe even mid-plat, maybe even legend if you change some cards around. Like if you had 3 Floodgate Trap Holes, I would probably put 3 of those in here. But I have 1, so I don't see a need in running just 1. I would rather have 3 Draining Shields, you know. But we're going to go ahead and face a Seto Kaiba. This guy was running the Normie Blue Eyes deck, so I was prepared for that. This deck that I'm running does well against Blue Eyes, and you know, when you open up 3 Draining Shields, you know it's going to be a good duel, because there's literally nothing that your opponent can do, because you're going to gain a ton of life points. So I set my Vermin, I set a Draining Shield, and I draw into a Needle Ball. I set a Needle Ball, and I set another Draining Shield just in case he happens to get 2 monsters on the field. He activates his King of the Swamp, I guess, to thin his deck. He gets a Poly out of that, and from this point, he ends his turn. So at this point, I'm thinking, well, that's a Kidmodo on the field. I'm not going to attack into it, obviously, because I don't really have anything to attack into it, honestly. So I draw another Needle Ball. I have an attack and receive, a Draining Shield, and another Draining Shield set. So he has 2 cards on the field, and I was thinking he was probably going to tribute summon, and he did. So there's his Kidmodo, and he just has a Blue Eyes, so that's good. He didn't have another Blue Eyes in his hand to be able to put down thanks to Kidmodo's effect, even though he wouldn't have been able to attack this turn. But we Draining Shield him, and we get 3,000 life points from that, which is awesome. So I go ahead and Mask of the Accursed his Blue Eyes. He has Interdimensional Matter Transporter. I've never thought about running this card in a Blue Eyes deck, but it kind of worked for him because my Mask of the Accursed was useless. But I decided to go ahead and set my other Draining Shield, and I'm just going to troll this guy essentially and Draining Shield him again. I want to make sure I have a ton of life points in case he has Burst Stream or anything crazy like that. So he summons a Blue Dragon Summoner. I let this go through. He attacks my Needle Ball. I'm going to pay for it because I have 10,000 life points. Why not? And I end up Draining Shield this third Blue Eyes attack. So that was 9,000 life points in 3 turns. That's pretty cool. So we have 11,000 life points right now. We're going to set a Nimble Musabi. And on the field right now, we have about 1,500 damage in monsters, which will go, 1,000 of that will go off here. And we have about 900 in damage in trap cards. So that is actually lethal on the field as long as he doesn't have Burst Stream. I set another Nimble Musabi, and he ends up attacking him. Does 500. This does 500. And essentially, he's basically lost at this point. I set a Windstorm, and I set another Musabi because why not? All the squirrels did the work the entire game, and now we're going to have them finish him. So, that's the second win. You guys should really try this deck. I think it's really fun. I like burning people out because it basically just frustrates the heck out of him. And, I don't know, it's just kind of kind of entertaining to me to know that I have cards on the field that there's no way they can get around, and essentially what's going to happen is eventually it's going to be lethal because I already have lethal on the field. Like the last game, I had lethal on the field, so I didn't have to do anything, really. So the third and final match I'm going to show you guys is against a 30-card Yugioh deck. I open up Draining Shield, Needle Ball, Attack and Receive, and Windstorm. He is running the Ultimate Insect deck, and I'm not too worried because this deck has faced this kind of deck before, and I did very good at it against it. So I end up Draining Shield this attack because I just didn't feel like losing Needle Ball right away, and I didn't want to pay the 2,000 at that point. So I actually drew into another Draining Shield, which was very lucky, and I set my Windstorm and Draining Shield. He activates his effect, and he gets his level 7 out. So I end up Draining Shield this guy as well. So that was pretty epic. He's down to 3,600 life points, and I draw another Draining Shield. I drew two Draining Shields in a row. Pretty awesome. So I Draining Shield him again because I said, you know what? I don't feel like losing this ball yet. So I set my Doom Dog just for protection in case he had another monster because I already have Senor Lava Golem. But he just goes in for the attack, and I'm going to trigger the Needle Ball effect to do 1,000 to him. I'm going to set my Nimble Musasapapa Baby, and if he did not set a monster, I probably would have, and he would have attacked my Nimble Musabi, I probably would have had to summon both of them on his side of the field just to clog up some space, and then summon my Lava Golem. So I tribute Lava Golem for his 2 monsters, does 1,000, but then he gets tributed off. Then he levels up this card to get the less attack card. I don't really know why he did this. I would have just probably kept the other one on the field. But this time I decide to summon 2 to his side of the field to clog up his field. Because I knew they wouldn't be able to get over Doom Dog. And I set an Attack and Receive. I set a Vermin. I honestly probably should not have set the Vermin because he would have been able to do damage to me this turn, and I would have been able to activate Attack and Receive and won right there, but no, I just had to set him. So I just ended up windstorming him just because I didn't feel like losing all Doom Doji yet. So I didn't set my Vermin because I wanted him to attack me directly because I needed to activate the Attack and Receive so I could take that dub. And that's exactly what we do. We activate the Attack and Receive. We get that dub, and if you guys are enjoying the content on the channel, please leave a like, please comment what deck you want to see next, please subscribe, would really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.